Ready to drive your career, not just ride along? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I'm Simone E. Morris, your host and career strategist, here to give you the roadmap. Each week, we're cutting through the noise with strategies, stories, and insights to get you back in control. Your career clarity starts right here. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. Today's guest is Dr. Yosi Amram, a licensed clinical psychologist, CEO leadership coach, and pioneering researcher in spiritual intelligence. From his early days as a decorated Israeli military leader to founding two tech companies through successful IPOs, Yosi's journey took a dramatic turn during a personal spiritual crisis that transformed his understanding of leadership and life itself. He went on to earn a PhD in transpersonal psychology, developing the first academically validated measure of spiritual intelligence, research that's been cited over 1,000 times. Now working with CEOs and couples alike, Yosi helps leaders integrate spiritual wisdom with practical effectiveness. Welcome to the show, Yosi. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Simone. It's delightful, and thanks for the kind words.
Awesome. Well, you have a very rich background. So I think spiritual intelligence in my career, what do I need to be thinking about? Just as someone really passionate about my career. This show is about being in the driver's seat for your career. What should I be thinking about when we use the terminology spiritual intelligence?
Well, you said one key word, which is passionate about my career. So it fires you up. And that means that your spark of life is ignited and your flame is burning. And then you radiate this light, this energy, this enthusiasm. And then people around you are naturally going to feel it. Like, oh, Simone is really excited about what she's doing. She's in her element. She's in her wheelhouse. She's using her talents. And that's going to make you more effective naturally if you're using your natural gifts. And when we use our natural gift, then we feel fulfilled and competent and effective, and we're going to be successful. People will see that, recognize that, and will be drawn to us.
I love
So,
that.
yeah.
I love that so much. So let me go back. As I received the flowers that you just gave me. Thank you so much.
Oh,
And I wasn't always passionate about the work that I was doing. In fact, I like to say I was a passenger at times in my career. And then I finally woke up and got into the driver's seat in my career. So let's go back to your career for a moment and think about, as you think back over your journey, was there a defining moment where a light bulb went off and the passion meter kicked in and all that light and you're in the driver's seat? Was there a defining moment for you?
well, there were several. I haven't had just one career. I think we're blessed in this day and age where and it's natural as we grow and mature, we kind of want to change and shift and evolve. So my first light bulb was actually in the Israeli military, where I garnered the fastest promotion record in the history of my regiment, etc. And had all these leadership awards. But the command and control model of the military really chafed at my soul. And something went off and said, I want to see if I can build an organization that brings out the best in people, still creates this camaraderie and sense of shared destiny that the military is good at instilling in people, because you're under crisis, you have to cover for each other. But it's a command and control model, which doesn't really inspire the best in people. So that was a moment that said, okay, someday I'm going to start and build my own company, which led me to then come to the US and start these two tech companies and take them public and so on, where I got to experiment to see whether I can indeed build an organization that brings out the best in people and cultivates their growth as individuals, but also creates a team environment and organizational spirit. So that was one moment which kind of defined a certain trajectory, which I played out over many years. And then at some point, as you alluded to, I had a spiritual crisis or a spiritual awakening. I was the CEO of a public company. Our stock price was the early days of the internet. The stock price was rising and I was worth a lot of money. And it was the early days of the internet. It was crazy. And I was trying to get relaxed one day. I was getting a deep tissue massage, and all of a sudden my ego dissolved and I experienced this oneness that we're all connected in this field of consciousness that permeates everything. And it really blew the circuits of my mind and threw me into a manic episode, which was traumatic because as the CEO of a public company, it was hard to run it. And I wanted to do everything yesterday, and I really wasn't a good listener. So my board put me on a quote unquote leave of absence, and all these headline stories in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times that I lost it. And I was pushed out of the company. It was a trauma and it was very painful. So that was a moment of epiphany that was actually very painful, but it was really a blessing in disguise because then it changed the direction of my life. I started asking these deeper questions. Why was I working so hard, 70, 80 hours a week around my company? Was this awakening experience real or delusional? So I went back to school to study psychology and spirituality to understand myself, and then that led me to develop this theory and measure of spiritual intelligence. And then that became my new passion, which is helping awaken greater spiritual intelligence in myself and the world. I'm saying a lot. I'm going to stop. I invited you to interrupt me if I go off, so I'm going to rein myself.
All right. What great awareness you have there. I was very interested in your story and your journey. And so you've had multiple careers. So, and then you talk about this spiritual awakening that comes. But before getting there, you had these top companies. And so you have a lot of experience. I wonder if there's wisdom from, your current experience as a spiritual coach and your military experience, as well as being the CEO of a public company. Let's put that all together. And if you were to synthesize what the ingredients are to be successful, to move up in your career, knowing what you know now with the additional higher education that you've received, what would you say, Yosi, your formula for owning your career is?
Well, let's just start owning your career. So that means that you got to be in the driver's seat, as you call it, which means that you got to follow your own inner compass. So that says that first and foremost, leadership is an inside job. If you're going to lead your career, if you're going to lead others, if you're going to lead teams, then you got to find your North Star, and you got to get inspired first before you inspire anybody else. And how do you get inspired? You gotta, dive in to discover your sacred spark of life and feel like, okay, my life is really precious. I was put on this earth with some sense of purpose. Life gave me these gifts, whatever my talents are. For somebody, it's, math and science and programming. For someone else, it's being a great listener and curious and asking questions. So maybe say, oh, I'm a great listener. I ask great questions. Maybe I can become a podcast host or a therapist or whatever it is. Or I have a great sense of humor and maybe I'll be a stand-up comedian or whatever it is. So we have to ask ourselves, what is our unique gifts, talents, and how can I actualize them? And how can I use those gifts and talents to contribute? Because when we do that, then we are fulfilled. We are in our mastery because those are our gifts. And when we actualize them, it feels good. It's like I'm effective, I'm good at it, and I'm contributing to others. So I have a sense of belonging, I have a sense of meaning. So, but all of that really emanates from, going within to find out, what is life? What is my life force asking of me? What gift did it give me? Because if I give you, Simone, a birthday present and you say, thank you, Yossi, and you put it in the closet, and next year I come and I say, hey, Simone, How's that present? Did you use it? Say, oh no, I forgot. I left it in my closet. I never opened it. I'm like, what? You know, so when life gives us a gift, it wants us to use it. So we have to say, what are the gifts that life has given each of us? And each of us are unique. And so we want to unpack that gift and use it.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I want to use my gifts. So what do you say to the listener who is receiving messages from their internal compass and not listening to it? Because I know that I've gotten nudges that I've not listened to, and it takes a while where you start listening because the clues start to stack up because you're not getting the original message. So what do you say to the listener who is not trusting their intuition or their inner compass on how to move forward?
Boy, I mean, as you say, if you don't listen, it just cranks up the volume on you. And that's, I've had clients that don't listen, and then their body fails them, or something happens. You know, they get a heart attack, or God forbid. So, yeah, I think it's important to really be sensitive and listen. But we pay the price. I mean, you follow what makes me come alive. What is it that I'm doing that I'm enjoying, that I'm fulfilled in, and versus like just trying to do something because it looks good on my resume, or my parents thought that I should do that, and then I'm trying to I'm playing the role of a kid who's trying to make his parents happy, and that's going to zap the life force energy out of me. So, you listen to that inner guidance, that North Star, and you also listen to, when do you come alive? What makes you come alive? What roles, projects, things you notice you come alive, and what things you do numb you out and feel like drudgery. And so, life is giving us the messages, but we do have to listen. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no substitute for that.
I love that. And I can think of instances where I've tried to make things make sense because you think that you should do something. But the other side is a happier place to be when you're really fueled by what you're passionate about. Then, there's this saying about you will do things without getting paid for it. Not like that's what you want to do, but you're so passionate and geared up about it that money is not like the top of your list for getting
Yeah.
something done. So definitely can appreciate the perspective that you shared there.
Yeah, and you feel it when you wake up in the morning. Is it like, am I excited? Do I know what I'm getting up for? Is there a reason for my being? And do I feel actualized, fulfilled? So yeah.
Yeah. You made me think of Maslow's hierarchy with the actualization there. So let me let me ask you, what resources have you used that you found to be helpful that you can share with our listeners on in terms of tuning into their, inner GPS, or just in terms of helping to become more spiritually aware or spiritually intelligent? Any tools that you can share with our audience that would be helpful?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think one of the things I like to do is first pay attention to my body and my breathing and my heart and my chest, and like there's a lot of wisdom in our body, and like if I think about doing something, do I notice like, oh, my breathing tightens, I start to be constricted, my whole being, body, my chest closes down, versus like, oh, I feel open and expansive, etc. So learning to listen to our body, there's a lot of wisdom. A lot of us live in our head,
Mm.
and we kind of disconnected from the wisdom of our body. So that's one resource, is the intelligence of our body, our intuition. The other is just nature, spending time when we quiet our mind and go for a walk, as they say, forest bathing in the woods or in front of the ocean and the beach. And then we get these perspectives and insights come to us. And it's when we quiet our busy mind, and as you said, all the shoulds, that all of a sudden insights come to us. So, and that can happen in the shower, that can be happening while walking in the woods or swimming or riding our bicycle or walking in the ocean. So I find nature to be a major resource, the beauty of nature, and the wisdom of the body. Those would be two main. I mean, there's a lot more. If you practice meditation, you practice contemplation, you just pause and listen and ask for guidance from. I don't know if you believe in higher power, whatever, but you don't have to believe in anything. It's just like tuning in, listening to a heart, like, I don't know, I need help. Show me the guidance. Where am I supposed to go? And then listen. And that wisdom comes from within. The other resource I'll mention is just imagining ourselves, our future self. One of our best resources is our future self. Like, okay, imagine myself 10 years from now. I've gotten to where I want to be in my career. I've become whatever, the CEO, the vice president, the this and the that. I've got my nice new home. I've made the amount of money I want to have in the bank. I'm feeling confident, I'm feeling fulfilled, I'm fulfilling, actualized. Okay, and then I interview that future self and ask it, okay, what was key in getting you there? And what were the key success factors? And what values and habits did you use to get there? And you'd be surprised, all of a sudden, all this wisdom comes through. And
Yeah.
obviously that future self is already in us. So all of that wisdom is already there. So I'll pause there. I hope I've kind of given you a few things.
You have, you have. You took me back to my coaching days. So I went to the Coaches Training Institute, and when you started talking about the future self, I was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm back there!" Like imagining
Yeah.
that. So thank you. You said several things that piqued my interest. One was, I love words, which I get excited about words. So maybe that's something I'm passionate about. And so when you said forest bathing, I was like, I've never heard that. So tell us, just Simone is curious about that. So tell us a
Okay.
little bit about that, and then I'll go back. I took a lot of notes. You said a lot of great gems. So let me just check in on the forest bathing. That was interesting.
Okay, just to be clear, this is not X-rated or anything. You can
Thank
go
you.
fully clothed, fully clothed. Forest bathing is actually a Japanese term, an art that they've done research. They found that people that go and immerse themselves in the forest, in the wood, their nervous system is better, their creativity goes up, and so on. So it just means spending time in the forest, in the woods, in nature, and absorbing the energy of life, of the trees, of the birds, of the bushes and the flowers and all of that. And then
Mm,
we get in touch with the amazing creativity that the life has all this abundance. And in the forest, nothing is wasted. A tree branch that falls or a leaf gets composted. I mean, it's just we're in touch with the mystery and the magic and the beauty of life. And that just has an amazing effect on our nervous system, on our creativity, and our mental health and physiological health. So, this has been research originally in Japan, and now it's made it to the US, and that's the origin of the term.
I love that. I can see you as a teacher. And
Okay,
I've got
thank
my
you.
notepad out on the podcast. So, yes, awesome. And then you said practice contemplation. I heard you talk about breathing, and we often hear about the power of mindfulness and meditation. And listeners, I am going to invite you to watch this episode on YouTube because Yosi, he mod what's the word I want to say? He modeled, excuse me. He modeled some of what he was saying. I was watching him feel the content of what he was sharing, and I want to invite you to also watch this podcast on YouTube when it comes out as well. Now, let's get back to contemplation. How do
Okay.
we practice contemplation?
Yeah, great. So, but I will just say you're modeling, enthusiasm. I'm just noticing your sweet, radiant smile, which
Oh,
is kind
thank
of
you.
awakening a similar energy in me, which speaks to how we're connected and we affect each other. So that's why when we are inspired in the work we're doing and we're radiating joy and we're in love with life, that's going to come through and we're going to be more successful and people are going to be drawn to us. Okay. contemplation. So,
I
so
received that. Thank you so much.
sure, you said flowers. I don't know what this was, but contemplation. So yeah, so just to distinguish meditation and contemplation. So you said meditation. So in meditation, it's a practice of disciplining our consciousness. Usually, we focus on something, our breath, or the third eye, or the sensations of the breath in the belly, or some mantra that we repeat. So that's meditation, is disciplining our mind. Contemplation is more like um, putting a question out and then just sitting with it. And our mind is going to wander, but we're just coming back to the question. Okay, what is life asking of me in this stage? Or that could be the question. Or what career is drawing me? So that's a question we kind of post on the bulletin board of our mind and heart,
Hmm.
and we come to that question at various points. And so it's a contemplation. And it's not like we're trying to focus on the breath or on the nose or on the mantra. It's just we're allowing that question, and we could take that contemplation on a walk. During forest bathing, we can contemplate that question while we're walking on the beach, while we're swimming, and then we ask the question and we kind of let it go, and then the creative insights come to us. So sometimes it's like we can't grasp at it. It's not like, okay, asking the question, I'm thinking hard about it and efforting. No, most of the great innovations, insights, whether it's Einstein or Steve Jobs, they were like they said, it's like when their minds were quiet. I mean, they done the homework, they laid the groundwork, doing all the analysis, etc., and thought about things, but at some point you just let it go. You ask that question and then it comes to you. Or Thomas Edison, he would do that. He was a huge innovator and he would work on things, but then he would let go. He would take a nap or he would sit in quiet contemplation, and all of a sudden the light bulb goes off and he invents a light bulb. Uh,
That was no pun intended. I do. Right. Yeah, the light bulb. Yes. And I have to say, to go back to your point earlier, Yossi, when you were talking about the shower, I get a lot of ideas from the shower or when I'm walking the dog. And to your point about nature, and I find that I soak up the energy of being close to the water. These are all great things that, as I have this conversation with you, I think about I need to do this more. I need to do this more. And I feel like COVID happening really allowed people a lot of opportunities to redesign their careers, to do better integration of work life, and to bring some of the pieces that you're talking about that are so necessary for us.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a big opportunity. It was also a big challenge. And now we're learning because, we like working from home. More people are working from home. And then we have the challenge of not being isolated. And, speaking of career, I mean, it's like our work, for most of us, it's the biggest community we have. We spend more of our waking hours with our work colleagues if we're in a company or some organization, for profit, nonprofit, government, whatever it might be. But our work colleagues is really our community. So, I think when we're considering our career and fulfillment, it's like, okay, what organization, what community, what values do I want to be part of? And that's a huge contributor to our happiness and fulfillment. And we all want to be in positive environment with people that share our values, with positive energy, as opposed to toxic environments where there's a lot of politics and everybody is putting everybody else down in order to advance themselves. So, yeah, I'll just pause there. I don't know how I got off on this, but oh, COVID and isolation and working from home.
Yeah.
So that was the train of thought. So, but yeah, so we had an opportunity to reinvent our careers, and so
Yeah. Yeah. So, are you in the driver's seat now in your career?
I am. I am. I am. I'm really blessed and fortunate. I feel I'm following my calling, which is to help awaken greater spiritual intelligence in myself and the world. And I do that through coaching CEOs. And when they get inspired and they bring greater meaning and purpose to their organization. It has huge impact on them and their teams and everybody throughout the company. And I've had the good fortune of coaching, CEOs that build billion-dollar businesses and become some of them become billionaires. And I've worked with them over many years, so it's affected thousands of employees. So, I feel the impact that I'm making through that work. I'm also working with couples, and what I find is that, and I'm doing research now with couples, with 100 couples to see how emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence, and attachment theory, that's the thing everybody talks about, secure attachment, affects the quality of your relationship. And I'm finding that spiritual intelligence is as important or more important than someone's secure or insecure attachment. So that's very exciting because those are the two domains that people care about the most is work, becoming a more effective, more productive human being at work. So that's my work around spiritually intelligent leadership. And I have my book and it's won awards and it's a bestseller, etc. And then doing this work with couples and showing that in that domain of our private lives, spiritual intelligence, being more compassionate, more present, practicing forgiveness, gratitude, humility. So we're focused on doing what's right as opposed to trying to prove ourselves right with our partners, which really doesn't help the
That
quality
doesn't
of the
work.
yeah, it doesn't work. So I feel like I'm living my dream, I'm
Oh,
doing the things I'm passionate about that I feel I'm uniquely qualified to do, and that everything in my life, all my experiences from the military, from being a CEO, from being a clinical psychologist, from being a researcher, all of those things are coming together. And I'm drawing on all of those experience to actualize myself and use that as a gift to help other people. So it's super fulfilling and meaningful.
I love that. I love that. It makes me think about my journey and how it's taken me a while to really listen to my inner compass to do what fulfills me because I think you can, not I think, I know you can be at a place where people are directing you to just choose the one lane. And I love what you shared about really tapping into I want to say 9 lives, 9 career lives. It wasn't nine that we listed, but it felt like 9 lives where you've had these different careers and now you're cherry picking the best, not the best experiences, but the tools that can help you craft this stage of your journey. And that's something that's been important to me to try different things. What I want to say next is that what do you say to people about really allowing themselves to have these different experiences? Because you allowed yourself to have the experience of being a CEO multiple times, clinical psychologist, education. I heard the research, the PhD portion come up when you talk about the research that you're doing with 100 couples. Your hand is in a lot of different things and you're loving it. Now I'm getting a visual of like some pottery, but you're getting to enjoy that experience. But oftentimes people don't get to tap into and innovate and experience.
Yeah, well, a
Yeah.
lot of it is self-limiting beliefs. So
Mm.
we gotta have the inner freedom that just says, okay, what self-limiting beliefs do I have? And those are the dragons of our lives that we have to slay. That's our hero's journey. Our
Mm.
soul, our soul comes into this life, this earth, and it's on a hero's journey. We all have our wounds. I've had my own wounds from my childhood, growing up in a war-torn region, family problems, my mother, my dad, all of that. I mean, I have my own history. It hasn't been a rose garden walk all along. But as we, go through these difficulties and these challenges, it builds our resilience, it builds our confidence that, okay, I managed those challenges and I'm here. And then now everything's okay. So I trust that whatever challenges are presented to me by life are gonna work out, and everything's gonna work out at the end. And if it hasn't worked out, it's not the end. You know, that's a line from a
Mm.
movie. You know, that's kind of like seeing the limitations, allowing ourselves to expand and actualize more of ourselves. And that's the journey our soul is on, is the hero's journey to slay the dragons of these self-limiting beliefs and then find the princess, which
Yeah.
is our soul, our soul, our beloved. And then we are really have this love relationship with life.
Hmm. Beautiful. Yosi, I can keep talking to you. I really enjoyed the philosophical nature of our conversation today. Thank you so much for being here. Please tell our listeners how they can stay connected with you if they'd like to do so.
Yeah, we'll have a website. If you can remember the spelling of my name, it's yosiamram.net. So YOSIAMRAM.net. Or it's easier to remember. I have a nonprofit called Awakening SI, SI short for spiritual intelligence, Awakening, one word, awakeningsi.org. And you can join my mailing list. You can connect to all my other resources. I host free events once a month on each spiritual intelligence quality, whether it's finding your purpose or intuition or presence or, trust is huge. We've talked about trusting ourselves, trusting life. So every month I host a free event with exercises, with people connecting to each other. And so, yeah, those are two places.
Awesome. Awesome. I'll be sure to put that in the show notes as well, listeners. Well, Yosi, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simone. It's been delightful.
Same, same. Thank you. That's it for today's empowering episode. I'm Simone E. Morris, and I want you to remember that you are indeed the architect of your career. Share this episode if it sparked something in you. Subscribe wherever you listen and find more resources at SimoneMorrisEnterprises.org. Keep practicing career ownership, and I'll be right here with you next week for more transformation.